Welcome back, everyone. On deck today, we're going to go ahead and show you how to clean and lubricate your Remington 870 series shotgun. This one here is obviously Marine Magnum, but the process is the same regardless of the 870, whether it was made 40 years ago or last year. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. This one's not all that dirty because it doesn't have that many rounds through it, but it will serve its purpose for the video today. Up next, we'll get into it. Before we get started, I'll go over what we're going to be using today. We got some CLP, which stands for Cleaner, Lubricant, and Protectant, or Preservative, depending on which brand you buy. Both in the spray form as well as in a little bottle here. Some old pieces of cut-up t-shirt, a little pick, a screwdriver, and a bunch of mops, shotgun mops. But we're not going to use those. But I just had them weighed out to let you know they do help, but you don't need them. And I know a lot of guys don't have them, so we're not going to use them for today's cleaning. We're not going to use the mops, but we are going to go ahead and use a brush. Now, to go ahead and take the gun down, the first thing you want to do is go ahead and retract the action, look in the chamber, make sure it's empty, make sure there's no rounds in your magazines, which that is the case. And what we're going to do next, since this model does have a sling attachment up front, we're going to go ahead and take it off and just unscrew that lefty-loosey like every other screw in the world until it comes off. Slide that out the front. Next up, what we're going to do here is retract the action. And we're going to take our magazine cap off. You do that again, same thing, lefty-loosey. And one thing you want to be aware of while you're doing this is that it's under spring tension and it is going to fly off more likely than not. Some of you guys that have 870s, your mag cap looks a little bit different because you don't have that extension on there. But either way, the process is the same regardless of what kind you have. Next thing we're going to do is take our barrel out, which it will slide out like so. Obviously the mag pull makes it a little bit tight. Ride that forward. Take your barrel out. We're going to set that off to the side. We'll come back to it here in just a second. Here's where it's going to be a little bit tricky for some of you guys. You're going to go ahead and depress this, and what you're going to see when you look in there is there's going to be action bars. There's going to be one in here as well as one right there. Now, what you're going to do to take this out is you're going to go ahead and push in on those action bars. You got to push one side, then come push the other side, and kind of wiggle it out. And that will take it out. Here's your bolt and carrier. You're going to set those off to the side as well. And your action bars, as well as your fore end. Next up, we're going to go ahead and take the trigger out. You don't always have to take the trigger out, but today we're going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and grab a punch, come right back. For a punch, you can pretty much use any punch. I'm just going to use a Glock tool because that's what I have sitting out here on my cleaning desk. We're going to go ahead and pick the rear of the receiver up by the stock and just push through. And the pin will pop right out. Set that off to the side. I'm going to go ahead and grab something to brace this on here because the front pin's usually a little bit harder. So put that underneath. Take the punch. Shouldn't need any excessive force, but sometimes you just need to tap it a little bit to get that one out. And sure enough, like I said, this one's usually a little bit tighter. This one's no exception. And obviously, if you're not on camera, it's a lot easier to do. It's kind of a given. There you go. Now you're going to pull your trigger out, pull down on it slightly, wiggle it out, and that's your disassembled firearm. Looking inside your receiver, all you're going to do is take some CLP. Again, it can be in any form. We're going to use the spray kind here. We're just going to spray a little bit in there. And I like to take a brush and just work it around so that way it gets on all the different moving parts in there. You want to be careful on the 870s not to kind of get your brush hooked anywhere, particularly on the rails that ride along the inside. It's kind of one of the weak points of the 870 design. Those do pop out if you pull on them too hard. It's not really a big deal. You just have to restake them if it happens, but it's annoying nonetheless. So basically just brush that all around, and we're going to let the CLP do its magic here while we go to the other parts of the firearm. For the trigger housing, all I do is take a cloth, whether it's a patch or t-shirt, spray it with some CLP, which I did on this one. We're just going to wipe that down. Some guys will spray right in there. Honestly, it may be a little bit excessive if you go ahead and do that, so go ahead and wipe it down. And probably a good idea to go ahead and fire it. Make sure when you do that though, you hold the hammer so that way it doesn't go flying forward. Go ahead and press the trigger, release it so you can get up under it. If you want to, you can use a pick to get into the little crevices, but again, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, this gun's not all that dirty. It's only had about probably 30 rounds through it since the last cleaning. It's just for video demonstration purposes, but you do find some stuff in there. Go ahead and reset that trigger. We're going to go ahead and leave that off to the side, move over to the barrel. For the barrel, all I do is go ahead and run patches through. Again, this one's not all that dirty. I'm going to go ahead and stick this on the brush I have on the end there. That brush actually, I just use it for, it's a 410 brush for those wondering. I just use it because the patches stick to it nicely. But if you have a standard rifle cleaning kit, you can just run it through there and that will work just fine. You can see there's definitely a little bit of crud coming out of there. But basically all you're going to do is just keep doing this until you can look down that barrel and not see carbon buildup. You're going to go ahead and keep doing that until it gets to the point that you want it. Occasionally you want to go ahead and run a patch through your magazine, but when you do so you want to make sure you don't leave any oil in there. That magazine tube is meant to be dry, so if you go ahead and run a patch through just like we did with the barrel, you're just going to push it through. Same process, and that's it. But really that doesn't need to happen very often. These things don't get dirty through normal use unless you're putting thousands of rounds through. Then maybe you want to wipe down your mag tube. For your fore-end assembly, you want to do the same thing. Get a rag, just coat it with some CLP, and just wipe them down. You'll see those things are dirty. They're always very dirty. This is not unusual at all. They're one of the dirtiest parts of the firearm for some reason. So just wipe them down, and that's it. They're clean. For the bolt assembly, same thing. You're going to take a nice rag, coat it with some CLP, and wipe every surface you can. You want to pull this part up and get in there, because as you can see, the carbon builds up underneath there as well. So you want to go ahead and wipe it down when it's both in the up position as well as down, and get in there as best you can. You want to wipe the bolt face underneath your extractor as well, and just on the outside of it. If you need to brush it, go ahead and do so. This one, again, not too dirty. Same thing here. Carrier, we're going to go ahead and wipe down all surfaces. One of the benefits of using a CLP versus say a solvent, and if you guys want to use a solvent, that's totally fine, feel free to do so, but if you use a cleaning, lubricant, and protectant type product, it will go ahead and leave a thin coat of CLP on there already, so that way it keeps breaking down the carbon and also acts as a lubricant when you go ahead and reassemble the shotgun. Looking into the receiver there, you can go ahead and see that CLP has done its job. The carbon's starting to break down and pull a little bit at the back, so what I'm going to do here is just insert the patch, and we're just going to work it around again. Like I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure you're not getting it hooked on any of the bars on the inside. Just be careful of that. So just going to work it around, clean up all of that nasty carbon built up CLP, and once it's clean to the level that you want it at, then you're done. You're good to go. After that, you just have to move on. We're going to go ahead, lubricate, and reassemble the shotgun. The 870 manual recommends a very light coat of oil on all surfaces for lubrication. A couple points it does point to though is the hammer right here, so you want to just put a drop right on the hammer where it goes forward, as well as the spring back here. It's going to release it. Other than that, your trigger group is good to go in terms of lubrication. Now, for your bolt carrier and bolt, what I do is I just put a drop right here on each side, because when you're actually firing, that's moving back and forth, so it just helps that. And if you look at your gun after you fired any sort of high round count through it, you'll notice that those points are wearing. This, obviously being the Marine Magnum, doesn't show it as much, but I assure you it's there. To reassemble the gun, we're just going to go ahead and put our trigger group in there. You just slide it in the same way it came out. You may have to kind of work it in. And again, guys, you want to make sure your hammer's back when you do this, if you actually went ahead and dry fired it to clean underneath it. So you just want to kind of wiggle it in like so. Make sure it fits all the way back up into your stock, and look through those pins. You want to make sure they're lined up. There you go. And we're going to go ahead and push the pins through. Start with the front pin because, like again, I said, it is one of the harder ones to get through of the two. So we're just going to go ahead and slide that through until it's flush with the receiver, and that one is, and check it on both sides. And we'll go ahead and do the rear pin as well. So much easier. And there you go. We're good to go. Next up, we're going to go ahead and put the bolt and bolt carrier in there. And to do that, you line it up just like that. You can't put it in backwards, so regardless of how I did it earlier, that's the way it goes. And we're going to go ahead and make sure you put your bolt carrier on there, or bolt assembly, excuse me. And you want to have the breech facing forward. So next thing we're going to do there is line it up. And this may be a little bit odd to get on camera, but you want to make sure your mag tube goes through your fore end, which is what I'm trying to get right here. And go ahead and just start that in there. Alright. So now that we've got it started in, what you want to do is reach up in those same spots that you were pushing on earlier to disassemble it on the action bars. We're just going to go ahead and push on them again. And same thing, you just work one side and the other side. And that's it. Until you're all the way in there. Then you're going to go ahead and depress this little lever right here and right at home about halfway. Again, guys, the spot that we were actually pressing on, right up in there, so you can see those bars, and you can actually move those with your finger. Next up, we're going to go ahead and put our barrel back on there now that we've thoroughly cleaned it. You're going to go ahead and just put the round piece, line it up with your mag tube. We're going to go ahead and slide that sucker in there all the way in until it's flush. The next thing we're going to do is take our magazine extension and spring. Again, if you don't have an extension, that's totally fine. But you want to put your spring back in there. If you don't have extension, you just have a cap, use your cap. So we're going to go ahead and put that on there. Capture that spring. Slide it on in there. And righty-tighty the opposite way. The opposite of the way that you took it off, excuse me. And you just want to click it down, hand tighten it, and that's all you need to do. If you have a sling attachment point, we're going to go ahead and put that on there as well, clamp down that barrel. And it's very simple, same as if you took it off, just go ahead and line it up and screw it down into place. You don't want to over tighten it, just snug it up. Now that it's all assembled, I go ahead and add a little lubrication right on the action bar, so right where it meets the receiver. And go ahead and run that a few times. You'll cycle your action a couple times, and that will allow it to work its way throughout the channel. That's good. Now we're going to go ahead and do the same on the opposite side. Just a drop. You don't need to over lubricate it. You should feel a difference. It should feel a little bit smoother there once you put that CLP on there. That's really all there is to it, to cleaning and lubricating your 870. Pretty simple process, but I know it can be intimidating for a lot of new guys out there. But now that you're all done, if you guys have anything but the Marine Magnum finish, you're going to want to go ahead and put a light coat of oil on it before you store it. But that's it. That's all you got to do. If you guys have any questions about this or any other video I make here on the channel, you can post below in the comments section, or you can post over at my Facebook page. But as always, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I hope to see you in the next video.